It's the champ, Shannon the Cannon Briggs, two-time heavyweight champion of the world, and this is my story from my mouth. Let's go, champ. Hey, what's up? This is Shannon Briggs, and I'm 48 years old, and I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, Brownsville, Brooklyn to be exact. I now currently reside in Miami, Florida, although Earth is my home. I really kind of live everywhere. I travel a lot. I would say I grew up in a poor neighborhood, but it felt it felt okay being that my mom, was although she was a single parent, she was providing for me the best she could. She was doing the best she could, and it was good enough for me growing up. I mean, I didn't lack anything as far as food or anything like that. I had clothes, I had my own room. My mom took on my uncle, which was her brother, and she took on her sister, which was my aunt. They both had mental illnesses, and they came to live with us, and that was rough because they had mental illness, and you grow up with that, seeing that it could be rough, But aside from that, that's part of it. You see that in the city a lot, and growing then drugs, but all of that, growing up with that, even like I say, to me it was a good childhood, you know what I mean. But then when we lost our home, everything changed. But so living in a single parent home, yeah, it could be effective, you know what I mean.
How would you say was your upbringing?
I would say my upbringing was pretty good, actually, for a while until I was around 13 years old is when my upbringing changed for the most part. I had a pretty good childhood growing up until I was around 13 years old. Before that, I lived in a nice neighborhood, pretty decent neighborhood. I lived in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, although it was a rough neighborhood, Brownsville. I lived in a pretty nice, what you could consider the nice part of it. It was a tenement building called Atlantic Towers, and it was a working class building. And then by the time, in the 60s, late 60s, and by the time the 80s hit, it kind of got rough. And by the 90s, even worse. But I was pretty nice growing up. We had a pool. It was like, I guess if you lived in the Bronx, I guess it was like Co-op City. It was pretty nice growing up there. But it was surrounded by pretty much the worst neighborhood in the world, in Brownsville. So it made it rough for us growing up there. Everybody came up there to get the pretty girls and to see they thought we was rich. So, it was rough. We had to do a lot of fighting and defending yourself. So it was great living there though. And then when I was around 13, 14 years old, we got evicted, and then we got kicked out, and that's when my life changed, and I kind of started getting in the streets. I had to move around different parts of Brooklyn. I lived in East New York. I lived in Flatbush, East Flatbush, Bed-Stuy. I moved around a lot, and then I got into boxing.
How far did you go in school?
I never did too good in school, although I didn't excel too great in school, and mainly it was because I think because of being sick a lot. I was born asthmatic, and I was always sick, and I never could get a good attendance with school. So my mom put me in a little Lutheran school, which was a private school, and I excelled at reading, and I could articulate myself well, but I had a lot of interest in history and science, but I was never great at math, and I could never, excuse me. So that was I was a hang up for me, and I think that that helped me back. And I think that once you have that intimidation as a child growing up, it could do a lot to you. It could affect you. Your personality can become angry because people may tease you in school because of your lack of knowledge or your lack of, being able to understand. So they can make you bitter and angry, and then you can become an angry person, a fighter or whatever. So I think, and I think, but I was always, I was smart. I think I was always intelligent enough to get by, and then I went to private school, then I went to public school.
What did you, as a kid, what did you think you was going to be, and what was your first career choice?
My first career choice was survival. When I was a kid, early on in life, I started seeing hardship, I started seeing a lot of mental illness. I started seeing my mom suffering from drug addiction. My stepfather, who I thought was my father, was in and out of prison. He was on the run. He was on America's Most Wanted. I was like, this is kind of bad for me. I was embarrassed. And then I started thinking about surviving. So my first career choice was survival. Get a job, don't go to jail, make a living. So I never really had an option of, let me be this, let me be that. Let me be whatever I could do that could make some money and keep me out of prison and keep me alive. I had a lot of near-death experiences as a teenager in my life that I was like, man, if I make it to 18, I'm lucky. If I make it to 21, I'm lucky. And then luckily I found boxing. So I'm lucky to be sitting here with you right now.
At what age would you say you became an adult in your mind? Now, when you look back at yourself as a kid, what age do you think you became an adult?
I think I became an adult at 14 years old.
Why not?
I became an adult at 14 years old when I came home from school, and I looked in the keyhole and there was no lock there. They had knocked the lock out. And at the apartment we lived in, they locked the lock out, and I could see in the peephole that inside my apartment, but it wasn't, it was empty. So I could see that we had got kicked out, we had got evicted, and it traumatized me. And I could see that my life had ended or changed forever. And I was not a boxer. I was just a kid, went to school that day, didn't know that more than that. My life was gonna change because I lived where I live all my life. I was born and raised there, you know what I mean? So here I was now, living from place to place, street to street, you know what I mean? Sleeping in basements, sleeping on the train, and I had to make it. Sleeping in the boxing gyms, I had to make it. And that was my motto, make it, make it, make it. Make it, make it, make it. You feel me? This is Shannon Briggs, and you're watching my story with Choke No Joke. Let's go, champ.